Hello and welcome to this Zoom broadcast of America United International, or AUI. It is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. In fact, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving 2021. And I am flying solo for this broadcast. Dr. Zena Crenshaw Logal, I'm the Chief of Operations for America United International. My esteemed co-host is usually Miss Belinda Parker-Brown. She's in the studio with us, but she's wearing a different hat tonight. Instead of participating as co-host, she's going to be on the other side. She's going to be a guest speaking on behalf of Louisiana United International, which is the corporate sponsor of America United International. So she's still with us, just playing a little different role. I'm going to be interviewing Miss Belinda Parker-Brown as well as four other powerhouse criminal justice system reform advocates who are coming from across the southern states of the United States. Well, actually, we had slated four different spots, but unfortunately, Miss Marsha King, she hasn't made it into the studio yet. But I'm going to introduce all of our speakers, all our guests in just a few moments. Now, if you can just let me go over a few housekeeping rules. Those of you who are on Zoom, you're encouraged to use our chat section to comment on our presentation today. If you have questions, please use our key Q&A section on Zoom so your question doesn't get lost in chat. At this point, pretty much everybody is an aficionado when it comes to using Zoom. But if you can, Q&A for your questions, and use your comments to this comment section to chat among each other, chat with our panel members, and we're just going to make this as interactive as possible. Our guests, let me tell you their names, and then we'll get into a more in-depth introduction in just a moment. I'll explain why we're postponing the introduction. We have with us Stephen Harris out of Mississippi. He's representing Mississippi. He'll tell us about his organization. Mr. Kobina Bantushango, who is in Alabama. We have Brother Charles Brown, who is representing Georgia, and our own Miss Belinda Parker-Brown, who is CEO of Louisiana United International. She's coming to us from the great state of Louisiana. All of our guests, and Miss Belinda certainly knows about this, have been warned that we're going to be putting them to work through what AUI calls a reverse interview. And this is how that works. And if you join our interviews before, and hopefully you'll know how this goes. We have our guests share their knowledge and impressions of AUI as a way of getting to know them before they give a detailed introduction of themselves. The format is somewhat like a quiz show. You have to show us what you know about America United International, and while you're like functioning like the Masked Singer, because our audience hasn't gotten to know much about you. So in that sense, you're the Masked Singer, but at the same time, it's like the old program, This Is Your Life, because we're going to very much get to know about each of our guests and their work, their personal and professional life as it relates to America United International. So let's see how this goes with these four powerful activists, all representing or working, primarily, well, as of this evening, we're going to be focusing on their work in the criminal justice system reform. U.S. criminal justice system reform. I was about to say they work primarily in that area, but to tell you the truth, generally their work spans all aspects of civil, constitutional, and human rights advocacy. So it may not necessarily just be focused with regard to the criminal justice system. Now, we have extra time slotted for tonight so that we can have plenty enough time to meet and greet and get to know each of our guests. We're going to begin our program with Mr. Stephen Harris. I'll have him on the screen in just a minute. I know, before we get into the specifics, let's just get everyone on the screen. There you go. And everybody, you can see all these bright and shiny faces, and we have an opportunity just to say hello. Mr. Harris, you know you're going to be going first. You're all ready? You have to unmute yourself. That's I have spent many a time talking on these Zoom broadcasts, only to find out I'm still muted. So you all ready? Anybody else want to make any opening greetings before we get into Mr. Harris's presentation?
Let's get right into it, Dr. Z.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go right into it. So, Mr. Harris, let me ask you before I put you on the screen so you can take the spotlight. Why don't you share with our audience your description of America United International? And I want you to use as much detail as you think that the audience needs to understand what this campaign is all about. Take it away, Mr. Harris. And everybody else, if you can mute your microphone.
Well, basically, I perceive it and look at your AUI as a you know, like a collective whole of you know, like-minded individuals that that have the courage and the willpower to challenge corruption in high places. I mean, I feel so honored to be a part of AUI, LUI, and the collective whole. And so when I look at the workmanship of AUI, it really, it gives me more inspiration, and it gives me more fire to keep pushing my agenda, and that inspiration alone, just gives me motivation. So when I see AUI, I see a force. I see a force to be reckoned with on many different levels. And for the most part, the willpower, the dedication, and the unity, and being able to utilize different formulas and combine it all together into a think tank.
Okay.
So I really see it on many levels.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask Brother Bantushango, Brother Kobina. Do you agree with Brother Harris? Do you see AUI as challenging corruption in high places? What would you add to help our audience understand what America United International is from your standpoint? Brother Kobina, okay, go ahead.
Uhuru. Yeah, Uhuru means freedom for the audience that don't know. And I am a member of the African People's Socialist Party, led by Tim Teller. And I see LUI, AUI as a vital instrument to address a lot of the question of what's happening to our brothers and sisters and comrades behind those prisons walls. Oftentimes that people tend to not, I would say, tend to forget our comrades that have gave their life and fought and struggled, and even people that are wrongly accused of something that are behind the walls. And we can't allow colonialism to define who our family members, who our comrades, our friends are, that's behind these walls in prison. And we have to be able to fight to liberate these comrades, and any injustice that keep them confined, we have to be able to fight. And I see AUI as an instrument and an organized way to make those things happen. So as a revolutionary, we have to be organized, and as a revolutionary organization, we have to be in solidarity with those that's having a genuine fight for freedom.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Brother Kobina. You know, we've had panelist interviews before, and we're going to be bringing Ms. Parker-Brown up very soon, and she can I think co-sign with me that already this is like one of the broadest definitions of America United International that we're sharing through these interviews because we have so many different perspectives that are being brought to bear. So this is very exciting, and I appreciate so far that we've got an emphasis on challenging corruption, and then we have the focus on America United International as an instrument to deal with incarcerated brothers and sisters, and particularly, well, you know, we'll get more into that, wrongfully incarcerated, our what would be considered political prisoners. I'm sure we're going to learn more about that. If Mr. Charles Brown is ready to join us, coming to us from the state of Georgia, Mr. Brown, go ahead and unmute yourself, and just when you're ready, take it away. What is America United International from your perspective? Let our audience know as much as you think they need to know about that campaign.
How you guys doing today?
Wonderful.
Right. To the audience that is listening, AUI is a organization that have helped me along the way of my confinement of being out on parole for the last 3 years. And I want to thank you, Ms. Zena, and every panel member tonight. I want to thank you guys for that. But AUI is a organization that is keeping Georgia very open-minded to the corruption and the bodies and the praises from the judges and the DAs here in Georgia. And I say again, this organization is bringing a lot of light here in Georgia. And Ms. Zena, I want you to continue to keep going and keep pushing.
Well, thank you so much, Charles, Mr. Brown, and certainly, if I can just keep up with you, I'll be making a great impact here in state of Georgia insofar as justice. But do you hear that, Ms. Belinda? Now, Mr. Brown has expanded the concept that Mr. Harris began with, challenging corruption, and he's mentioned specifically judges and DAs. So tonight, again, you're here speaking primarily as a representative of Louisiana United International and relating America United International to the state of Louisiana. And you've heard what our other guests have had to say. So come in, Ms. Belinda, and give us your special insight about America United International. How do you perceive it? And if everyone can mute their microphone, we'll have Ms. Parker-Brown give her presentation, her opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Zena. Thank you so very much. And I have really appreciated and like what everyone have said in regards to what AUI is really all about. And to make it just a little bit more crystal clear, I see AUI as a very strong and solid campaign due to the fact that when we have organized legal abuse in our criminal justice, in this corrupt criminal justice system, is that the fix is in and we don't have nowhere else to turn. So when AUI came about, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was a dream come true. And thanks to you, Dr. Zena, you have led the way in rolling this whole campaign out in such a profound way that it's undeniable, it's unrefutable, because of, I really feel that everyone that embraces AUI, that have been boots on the ground, that have been advocates for justice, social justice, that really want to see the real change that the people need, they need to join up and become a part of this very powerful, this very strong and solid campaign that will eventually bring us the answer, the solution to what we really need. So on that note, I know you're the interviewer and you already know I'm very passionate about this. You know, like I say, AUI, when people think about revolution, we're saying that the evolution will be televised.
Exactly, exactly. Well, you heard that, Mr. Harris. Miss Belinda said that AUI is a solid campaign, and she put a couple of new concepts out there. She talked about organized legal system abuse, and the fix is in. Now, is any of that what you were referring to when you talked about corruption in high places? Tell us, what is the relevance of America United International to your life, if any, Mr. Harris?
Well, it's relevant to me because before AUI was formed, you know, upon me being introduced to you, you know, that's honorary enough. And then, you know, beloved, you know, Miss Belinda Parker-Brown, and you know, and how, you know, we navigated and you know, and adapted to many different levels. That kind of shaped, you know, my perspective on, you know, how I viewed it on so many different levels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's relevant to me because of everything that I had to experience, everything that I had to be subjected to in order to be where I'm at right now. And I basically tell people that I don't look like what I've been through, but as far as experiencing both worlds of being a victim of the criminal justice system and then being able to have the opportunity to be connected with people like you all, that speaks volumes.
Mm. Okay, now you bringing it on home. You talked about being a victim of the criminal justice system. Now we really starting to break it down. Now the ice is melting. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Brown, because Mr. Brown, you were the first to specifically mention judges and DAs. So why are you talking about judges and DAs in a program where we're talking about the fixes in and legal system abuse? Why would you be talking about the good judges and the district's attorneys? Aren't those are the good guys, right?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
They are not, Ms. Zena. And I do want to say to everyone is that the DAs and judges, there's a major problem here in Georgia out of Cordele. Myself included, 8 years. I got 3 other guys, 25 and 17 years, waiting on transcripts, guilty pleas, and jury trial. They remain in prison. I'm free, and I'm still requesting open record for 8 years worth of records. No transcripts, none of that. So I'm very exhausted trying to get these things done. Then I got a court date, December the 9th of 2021 at 9 a.m. So that's why it's been kind of hard to catch up with me, Ms. Zena.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm dead serious about taking them up through there. But then the 250 cases that I have, myself included, prison without a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
There's over 250 cases that I had. Just encourage that you guys, you know, understand where I'm coming from, how urgent I'm trying to stress here in Georgia, in the audience. If you are listening, please pay a close attention, because the things that we are discussing is very important, dealing with that legal system.
And here you're on the move even during this interview. Okay, well,
yes, ma'am.
Brother Kobina, our guests are so far being a little shy. They hinted about corruption and problems with the judges and DAs and being a victim of the criminal justice system and the fix is being in. Go ahead and tell us the specifics of what they're talking about. How does all this relate to your life, personally or professionally? Go ahead.
Oh, I want to quick say, because I gotta, before I even say anything else, to get to the question, is that I have to give my props to a salute to you and Belinda Parker-Brown for all the work that you do, and I think that you both are two of the most courageous warriors out here fighting for liberation, and I just appreciate this opportunity to participate in this discussion, and I just wanted to salute y'all for that.
Thank you so much. I just say I don't think this could be possible if it wasn't for Miss Belinda Parker-Brown. But go ahead.
Yeah, she get everybody fired up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Belinda Parker-Brown. But yeah, but to get to the question, I think we have to understand that this is colonialism, you know, and I think it's even more than corruption, that it is functioning like it's supposed to function. This is what, you know, it's like looking at a system of slavery, and you know, every aspect of that can be considered corrupt, because from the slave master to the slave catcher to the little girl that you know is forcing you to, you know, ride her on your back. You know what I'm saying? Is a part of a system that is set up to oppress and to exploit the African working class. And, you know, so there's no component of it, whether the judge, the DA, the lawyers, the public defenders, you know, all these people, it's a process to continue to oppress. Now you have people like yourself, lawyers that will break from that, and you have a class structure like Amilcar Cabral talked about, committing class suicide to work on behalf of the working class, and you have people that would do that. But the system and the structure itself of colonialism, from the top to the bottom, you know, is set up to oppress. Is set up to, even the state, the police, you know, is set up to carry out the opinions of the people in power. And law, in and of itself, you know, is the opinion of people that's in power. And we, as the African working class, have to struggle to get that power, because if not, they continue to exploit, oppress us, lock us up, murder, and get off with some form of immunity. And we have to be able to organize the working class to be able to get to get the power to overturn those situations. And I think in this process, you know, we don't leave no stone unturned. Mm-hmm. So when we see somebody that is even going the extra mile to carry this agenda out, we not only have to expose that, but we have to uproot that and create the space, as much space as possible, for us to gain freedom for all of us, because all of us at any given time can be caught up into this. Even just at a traffic stop, we don't know if we're going to lose our lives. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, sometimes we can even go to jail for something as simple as running a red light and wind up with life in prison. You know, so these are things that as African people, we are forced to live under these type of conditions. And the only way to overturn that is to do what we're doing here, and also to organize the people to get the power to prevent any of that from happening.
Oh wow! I mean, you know, do you hear that, Miss Belinda? Is worse than corruption. It's colonialism. I mean, you know, but you're in Louisiana. Didn't we just get done hearing about the conviction of Sheriff Jack Strain and other powerful political former political leaders there in Louisiana? So, you know, tell us about that. Isn't the system working? I think I heard a press conference where the district attorney said the fact that you all were able to get a conviction of this once powerful corrupt sheriff was proof that the system was working. So how do you reconcile that with what Brother Kobina just explained, that this is really colonialism? Miss Belinda.
Absolutely. My brother Kobina spoke very well on how the system have been basically, like he said, it works fine. It works the way they intend for it to work. And but the thing that the people really need to know, Dr. Zena, is that when it comes to who, you know, the selected group of people that it may work for, it may not work for. It's like, you know, I want to give an example here in Louisiana. And most of all of you know that, you know, Louisiana United International, you know, we're a grassroots organization, you know, civil, constitutional, and human rights, you know, advocates. And we do a lot of court watching. And we see how the script get flipped in the courtroom when it comes to when your lawyer is in cahoots with the judge, the prosecutor, the sheriff, the coroner, you know, and any other outside agencies that they stand to benefit from, you know. So that's, you know, the selected groups. When you say that, you know, the system, you know, when our district attorney that had been in office for over 3 decades, that was, you know, a malicious prosecutor, you know, that he would prosecute people based on their race. You know, he would, you know, say that if you're Black, I'll give you 60 years. If you blink at that, you get life. Okay, that's the kind of, you know, and then he would, you know, we caught this prosecutor passing a note around to all the judges. And on that note that came from, you know, a selected group of people, community organized people, you know, that was supposed to be there to kind of assist the jurors. But this note got passed to one of the bailiffs that read the note before he passed it to the judge. And guess what the note said? To the judges, you know where your bread and butter come from. And on this particular trial, we want him to be found guilty. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff that they would pass around amongst themselves. And then also the judges were told that they have to meet a quota. They have to meet a quota. They got to have so many trials, okay? And then they have to have so many guilty pleas. So it's all about who is the system serving? Who is it really for? So it's working the way they intended to work, because it's deliberately that they can rig the system to sway it however way they want it to go.
Well, Brother Harris, surely that only happens in Louisiana. You know, they couldn't be doing anything like that in Mississippi. Do they?
Well, to be honest, to be frank and honest and blunt, Mississippi is worse. It's just as worse, just as 3-4 times worse as Georgia or Louisiana. And I bear witness that so many atrocities, so many false prosecutions, wrongful convictions, so many wicked and evil district attorneys who engage in prosecutorial misconduct deliberately, to where they break historical records,
Mm.
and judges, circuit court judges. I mean, like, these people that are in power wouldn't even have a position if it wasn't for the people to put them there. But then, one of the most critical, issues that I'm speaking in reference to right here in this good old state of Mississippi is that, we have a lot of towns that are predominantly Black, but you have a lot of white gatekeepers that make decisions that determines what happens, how it happens, and who gets subjected to what. So, that's a system within a system. And then to top it off, just because I'm not afraid to speak on it, we have the Dixie Mafia here, which is a offshoot of the Klans. And then you got other organizations of white supremacy, and they have literally taken off the robes, the sheets, the bed sheets, and now they in suits, just like you and I. Now they have badges and they patrol on law enforcement. So it's real critical here in the state of Mississippi. I ain't gonna lie.
Mm. Worse in Louisiana, worse in Georgia, the state of Mississippi. That's a heck of a allegation. What do you say, Brother Brown? Coming out of Georgia, Mississippi is worse.
No,
Yeah.
2 times worse.
Go
Right.
ahead.
Louisiana as
Go ahead.
exactly.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. And Brother Stephen is correct and right. And we have a case now, Miss Braxton. She's out of Mississippi as well,
Mhm.
and we with her daughter now, which is Amaya, that got killed by the white young lady coming out school bus, killed the young girl,
Yeah.
7 years old. So we dealing with that case now, and we know how Mississippi is, from the judges to the DA. No different from Louisiana, no different from Georgia.
So Ms. Belinda, this worse or better, how does that even define when you're talking about one nightmare state after another when it comes to the weaponization of the criminal justice system?
Dr. Zena, I think it's so unique that we have people on tonight, doing this interview across the country, especially we focusing on the southern states. But the most important is that this is happening all over the world.
Yes.
It's just that, when I say that we got judges that make up their own laws here in Louisiana, they make the law up as they go. Okay, we suffer under a Napoleon law that, I think it's only 2 states in the country that does that, Texas and Louisiana for sure. But, my concern is that AUI, is, America United International is where the whole, country needs to know that this is not isolated. This is systemic. People are fed up with this type of treatment, Dr. Zena, and that's why I am so glad to be a part of America United International, because that gives us the solution to this problem.
Exactly. And if I can interject, because I just want to, we're talking with the people from these southern states. You're hearing these nightmares. It's hard to even think in terms of what is better or what is worse. But what we have in common, where I guess I shouldn't presume, I should ask. AUI stands for the proposition that there is not been effective redress. When you are contending that the fix is in, where your lawyer, the prosecutor, the judge, they're working together to get an outcome, and it doesn't have anything to do with guilt or innocence. It's about serving some other goal. And we need to talk a bit about what some of those goals are. Brother Kobina suggests slavery, colonialism, That's one of the goals. Mass incarceration, which has an economic aspect to it over and beyond just the oppression of Black and brown people in this country. So I want everybody to talk about, you know, these different goals that are being served. But America United International, and I'm going to be quoting Miss Belinda, is the time out, the cold blue on this weaponization, this taking our court system and using it to serve these corrupt ends, you know, using it to fill our prisons, you know, and using it to accomplish, you know, slavery and by another name. And then you have the profit motive. America United International, and our speakers can share the extent to which this was clear to them. It's inspired by the Declaration of Independence, which was signed by representatives of, at that time, 13 states of the United States, and they certainly weren't looking out for everybody. These, from my understanding, was wealthy white men who were looking out for the elite, and they didn't want to be under the tyranny of the King of Britain. So they declared independence, and they quoted in the Declaration of Independence that when you have a government that becomes a threat to life, liberty, and property, an undue threat to life, liberty, and property, your government, which is serving at the will of the people, then it becomes the obligation and certainly the right of the people to declare that government illegitimate. The Declaration of Independence was about putting aside a government, because the United States, what has become the United States, was really a colony of Britain, and it became the United States of America by the Declaration of Independence. So these, you know, the Declaration of Independence is not the law of the land, but it proclaims that when a people face this type of oppression from government, that it is their right to change the terms of government. And that's what America United International is about. We're changing the terms of US government until such time that it gives us effective redress. When we make an allegation that the fix is in, that our rights are being deliberately violated, we want it shouldn't have to take decades to get relief. It should be affordable, and we should be able to take those claims to a fair and impartial body. Is that what we have now, Brother Kobina?
Oh, and you saying, is that what we have? Is that what we're dealing with?
When there is an allegation that there's been a deliberate violation of rights, that there's not only do you have a wrongful conviction, but it's by design.
Right.
Where do you take that and get a fair and impartial, you know, consideration of what you're alleging? Where do you take that?
Yeah, I think I think you gave a whole lot, right, in that overview, and that's important, because I think you was right on with a lot of things, and like you're saying, even when you take the Declaration of you know, and that they was breaking away from Britain, that was a mode of production. When we talk about profit, that was a mode of production, and they was coming from feudalism.
Yeah.
And it was the serfs that overturned the nobility and declared their independence from them, because the mode of production that benefited the nobility did not benefit the serfs that was trying to declare their independence. And we are in a similar situation, you know, and I don't think that any less, and what did they call it, the American Revolution? You know, we are in a similar contradiction where the mode of production is held by the capitalist boss. And we're in a place where the working class has to break free from that relationship and declare some form of independence, and that's going to be a revolution as well, because we have to, we have, as the Declaration say, we have a right to overturn a system of oppression that is not representing the people. And I think it's vital that we don't leave, and when I say don't leave no stone unturned, what AUI is doing is that all the legal issues that's happening, we have to fight on every front. It has to be a revolution, because the mode of production now is in the hands of the capitalist boss, and we saying that the mode of production and how things are produced has to be in the hands of the working class. And also, like, even I remember, I don't know if you remember this a few years ago, I think it was 10 years ago now, that there was a judge in Georgia when they executed Troy Davis. There was a judge that said it's not unconstitutional to, he told his sister, Troy Davis' sister, even though they know he was innocent, the judge said that it's not unconstitutional to execute an innocent man as long as they feel like he had a fair trial. And we see this over and over and over again, and we see that there's no representation. There's no way for colonialism to represent the working class, or there's no way for the slave master to represent the slave. Mm-hmm. The slave has to overturn the system of slavery. And if we don't overturn the system of slavery and usher a different type of system in, then, you know, you only change hands, but the system is going to function how it's set up to function. But that does not mean that we don't learn the law as good as they know it, and that we fight them on every single end. We don't give an inch. And if there's and if we see that some of them are going the extra mile to carry out injustice, then we have a right to not only expose that, but to fight to show the to get us, like you said earlier, some relief and create the space for us to be able to advance the revolution and the people towards liberation.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Brother Kobina, because what happens, particularly in the context of the criminal justice system, you talked about the prospect of someone being innocent, but yet still put to death. What AUI takes it, I believe, a step further. And even when you have compelling evidence that the outcome of this criminal process is orchestrated, it's people in cahoots, in collusion to reach this outcome, your conviction, your serving time. The United Nations determined that if that's your allegation and you're saying that the judge facilitated all that, the judge was unethical and he let it all happen, that there is not effective avenues of redress in this country. What that basically means is that you don't have nothing coming in this country. If even when you have compelling evidence that what happened to you in criminal court was tainted by a deliberate violation of your rights, you could be facing retaliation because of you being an outspoken critic of government. It could be the race factor. Even when you have evidence that is a contrived outcome, it is not about guilt or innocence. The United Nations determined that there's no where to go. It's sure sometimes you have a victory from time to time, but it takes too long, it costs too much, and the victories are too seldom. But in the meantime, you still better show up and surrender yourself for prison. And in the context of other court systems, you better still turn over your children. You better still surrender your professional licenses. The Trump administration, just before Trump left office, they acknowledged to the UN Human Rights Committee that, yes, if those are your allegations, that this is a contrived outcome, that you were railroaded, that this system was weaponized against you, that's terrible. That's a human rights violation. But we got other priorities. And the Biden administration, when we propose, okay, well, what are you going to do about that? Because every American, as quiet as it's kept, it's not classes of citizens in this country. There should be no segment of the population that has effective avenues of redress, and the rest of us just better show up and surrender ourselves to even when it's a deliberate, fix, and we can prove that. Basically Trump is saying that's too bad, we got other things to do. America United International declared timeout for that.
Absolutely.
They declared timeout for that. Miss Belinda, go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I want to jump in, Dr. Z, because you really, this stuff really gets my blood to boiling, when you think about, what you're saying. But the answer to your question, Kobina gave a perfect example, a perfect answer to your question. But even more so than that, we know we do not have anywhere to turn. And when you saying that, these type of atrocity, this tyranny is being, forced upon us, and not to have anywhere to turn, here in our country where our government is beating up on us. Our government is using the system, weaponizing the system against us, and we don't have nowhere to turn. And the worst thing you can do is not really understand, not really get it, on how the criminal corruption in the justice system have been proven ineffective. What does that look like? So it's been very difficult for us to really get people to understand that the worst thing you can do is not know what it looked like, and then you started going to the fox that's guarding the hen house, file this, file that, go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and come back down and go back again, and keep on doing all that. Get a good lawyer, get Johnny Cochran in here, get Perry Mason up in here. We can beat this thing. We gonna raise the money. We gonna march, and we gonna take the streets, and we gonna make a lot of noise. But you can do all of those things. When the fix is in, the fix is in. And the worst thing you can do is keep on going looking for help in all the wrong places. That's the reason why AUI is on the scene, because we're not going to chase the rabbit. We're not going to keep on running around in circles, going to the fox that's guarding the hen house, okay? And then expecting for them to fix what they deliberately intended to be wrong. So what happens to us, of anybody that tried to approach that that rigged up system, that conspiracy that they got going on in the system, when your insurance company, okay, is in cahoots with the judge, and all of a sudden your lawyer did not disclose to you that he was the lawyer for the insurance company, okay? So all of that is when we're at loss. We got to change the terms of the government, because we don't stand a chance.
Exactly. And we want to hopefully make crystal clear at this program, because we are dealing, our guests are some of the most effective community organizers and mobilizers in the country. So what we need, what we want to get clear is the line between, yes, we got to get out here and organize, we got to mobilize, but we got to understand due process doesn't mean we do that for 10, 20, 30 years. That's not due process.
Right.
When we organize and we mobilize and we file lawsuits and we protest, that's about creating public awareness. That's about pulling people together to so that people can come in and say, yes, this happened to me and I don't want this to happen. It's about expressing public priority. But it is not supposed to take all of that just to get a fair and impartial administration of justice. It is not supposed to take decades of that just to sometimes back off blatant corruption. Do you see where the line should be drawn, Brother Brown? And so how would you break it down to your community, your constituents, and tell us a bit about your organization. That's what I want us to turn to now. Tell us a bit about what you do and how you help draw that line so that your constituents know, yes, we got to organize. Yes, we have to mobilize, but we don't chase the rabbit and do this for decades. That's not due process.
Right.
You explain it in a way that's clearer than I've explained it, because I'm sure that can be done. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. And you hit it on the head, Ms. Zena. And the most important thing is that Sixth Amendment and the 14th and the 8th and the 1st and the 2nd. So by breaking that all down and understanding it from the 14th Amendment, it shouldn't take 80 years, 50 years, 2 years, or 2 days. It only takes 24 hours to get a due process in if you do it right way. And the DAs and judges, they set, they consistent, and they dead serious about destroying people of color lives.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Georgia, we the people demand equal justice. This campaign here stand firm in our division. We're not turning around. We going full throttle. Here in Georgia, there's 159 counties. I have 100 of them. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. But we are stacking up and coming together here in Georgia. And we building a courtroom support system as well as we speak now. And we're going to flood these courtrooms. We're going to stand firm in these courtrooms. And we do know how they play. Get out, we're going to lock you up, First Amendment violation. So we prepare for that. So we're going to build a courtroom support system. And the 14th Amendment, it has to be done correctly.
Exactly. And you all hear this, full throttle. But at the same time, we need to show support for America United International for the proposition that it is the government's job to protect us from violations of our rights under color of law, to protect us from government agents, rogue government officials who are abusing their power. That is a fundamental obligation of government. So while we're going to be full throttle and we're going to be all up in these courts to demand that, we need to understand whose responsibility it is to provide that protection. It is not our obligation to go out and get that protection. It is our government's obligation to provide us that protection, and we cannot miss that. And that's why American United International needs to be layered in, needs to be a part of this community activism. Brother Harris, how would you make it clear?
Well, basically, you know, I wake up, eat, sleep, fighting. I mean, I be fighting in my sleep. You know, basically, I feel that, you know, in my spirit that I was born just for to be able to fight, to have something to fight for. And, you know, I basically dedicated my life to advocating and fighting for so many, hundreds and hundreds of people. And I traveled the entire state of Mississippi. Even some towns are so wicked, and you know, I get these dark stares, and you know, and I say in the back of my mind, they can keep on staring just as long as they don't approach, you know. And then, you know, because I know my rights, you know. So I mean, you know, it's just on so many levels.
Exactly. And see, what you all are describing is the way it is, but what we need people to be clear is what it's supposed to be. And we are not supposed to be putting our lives at risk, you know, basically, you know, while people are out there enjoying life, liberty, and property, we fighting in our sleep. Yes, we do that because that's what's going to be necessary to bring about this justice, to bring about awareness, to fight the injustice as long as it's at the gate. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that the United States is a party to many human rights treaties, international human rights treaties, but the most fundamental that AUI is focusing on is on the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, and we're focusing in on the basic proposition that our government owes us effective avenues of redress, and we should not have to spend decades of our life fighting to back off in a lot of instances. Some of the most blatant, this is not close calls, reasonable minds can differ. Sometimes blatant corruption. You can get convicted and get a life sentence in a snap of a finger, and then 25, 35 years later, they come out, oh, we found out he was not guilty. That's not due process. That's not justice. Brother Kobina, explain the different levels on which we're talking about fighting, and that the essentialness of keeping in mind the international human rights aspect of challenging this weaponization of the criminal justice system. Help our audience understand how all this works together and why we have to fight on all of these fronts.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone who understands that better than you do.
Yeah, I think it's important that we fight again on every front, because colonialism, it oppresses every aspect of our life, from your job to, going to court to, locking us up, and even on an international level, colonialism function as the same, and you see, we see it, we experience it every day, you look at this case of Rittenhouse, who was exonerated from all charges of killing 2 people and wounding another person, and yet, Emmett Till, was murdered for allegedly whistling at somebody. That's colonialism. You know what I'm saying? Tamir Rice was killed by and all these people was acquitted. You know what I'm saying? And this is what we're experiencing on colonialism, but we have a responsibility to not only fight, those legal cases, but also to overturn this colonial capitalist system in and of itself. You know what I'm saying? We have to be able to fight on the legal front to get as much justice as we can and push back as much as we can, because what that does is it gives us the space. Because if we don't have the basic right to do something like assemble, then we don't even have the right to even organize and come together. So we have to fight to open up and create the democratic space for us to be able to organize and fight and have this discussion. So we have to fight for that. But at the same time, we have to take that a step further and say that we creating that space as a method to be able to overturn this colonial capitalist system, and we don't have the luxury to do one or the other. We have to simultaneously do all this at the same time. And at the end, even on top of that, we have to begin to what we call dual and contending power. We have to begin to organize to build and with plans to take power and govern ourselves. We have to build the capacity to begin to address our own issues and resolve our own issues. And this is why, we have to develop the capacity to have our own courts. We have to develop the capacity to overturn every aspect of how we've been oppressed. We can't even get proper medical treatment. You know what I'm saying? We got to be able to overturn, this process. How do we organize ourselves to meet our own needs while we simultaneously fight those who continuously oppress us and kill us and murder us out in the street and lock us up on a daily basis? These are the things that we have to be able to do, and not just theoretically, but practically on the ground. We got to be able to organize our communities to be able to meet our own needs, while we simultaneously fight to get the justice in this system that we currently in. And we are socialists, as the African people socialists, but we socialists, and we understand colonial capitalism, you know, because like you said earlier, they have the luxury of these things, and like Rittenhouse had the luxury to have a trial, even though everybody had him on camera shooting somebody. You know what I'm saying? So the guy that murdered the 9 people in church, the state caught him and took him to Burger King, but yet Mike Brown is slaughtered on the street for walking across his own neighborhood street. You know, so these are contradictions that we face with, but they have the luxury to have this due process, and we have to be able to fight on every front to make sure that we get the justice that we need while we build our own government and take power ourselves, like they did when they was declaring independence from feudalism. We have to organize and fight and have a revolution to declare our independence from colonial capitalism.
One of the basic points that you made is that, and we made this point to the United Nations, and that's why we were able to get this historical determination that there are not effective avenues of redress when you're alleging this type of legal system corruption. That is phenomenal when you're talking about the United States of America, with a legal system that's the gold standard of the world for fair and impartial administration of justice. What we were able to establish is that it can be selectively enforced. It can work just perfectly, you know, for certain people. But if you are on the radar, if you are what they call a disfavored party, then it doesn't work. And another thing we want to make clear is that, you know, they're from the beginning of time, since there's been mankind, there's been injustice, there's always been corruption. American United International is denouncing the fact that the United States is turning a blind eye to our courts and our judicial officers being and prosecutors. You know, those are government agents, let alone the public defender and the private defense, criminal defense attorney. The United States is turning a blind eye. They're bystanding to the use of our court system to persecute, to oppress, to psychologically torture American citizens, sometimes even to the point of there being no accountability for causing people's death directly or indirectly. And then I want to point out, just to make clear how this weaponization happens, we have an audience member who talks about, and we're going to have shows addressing every aspect of the U.S. legal system, but we have someone in the audience talking about how the adult guardianship probate court, U.S. probate court, was weaponized. And what is that? An attorney that worked with a nurse, and they had a relative put in hospice and were killed, you know. So the courts, there is no aspect of our lives that courts can intrude upon. And if they come there with a corrupt purpose, with a improper objective, you know, it's literally our life, liberty, and property at stake. And it is not a dispute, this is not our opinion, that when you're making those type of allegations, get ready for 10, 20, 30 years of fighting, you know, for justice. That is not due process, that is not effective avenues of redress, it's just chasing the rabbit. Ms. Belinda?
Absolutely, Dr. Z. And, you know, I think about Louisiana here, and we've been boots on the ground and see these type of things where, you know, Louisiana got it wrong. They got it wrong. And when we begin to do our, you know, internal research on everything that they got wrong, then they begin to attack the, you know, the people that were calling them out, you know. And then What happens is that right now we have a young man that's spending, they gave him life in prison because he called them out. He called them out on a non-unanimous jury verdict. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. His conviction was vacated, not only his conviction, but thousands of other people's conviction was vacated. And that's on the Ramos versus Louisiana. And what happens is that you come back with the Supreme Court. Now, this is why we really need AUI. And this is why I want to break it down and say that we're in a crisis. Kobina said that if we don't push back, if we don't begin to fight and declare our own right for self-defense, when we know that our government is beating up on us, it's bullying us, it's using the system and weaponizing it against us, we have to fight back. We have to push back. We have to declare our own self-defense and change the terms of this government, because like you said, Dr. Zena, we got the facts, we got the proof. It's been determined that we don't have nowhere to turn. So I just want to make that clear to the people. When you can go all the way up to the highest court in the land, and then they come back down and tell you, the very people that oppress you, the very people that imprison you on wrong, concocted, fraudulent, manufactured information to fix it. They're not going to fix it. They're not going to make it right, because it worked just the way they intended it to work. So what they want to do, then we get political prisoners. We get all of these people locked up. We get mass incarceration. We get all of these people's lives being destroyed, families suffering and committing suicide because they don't have nowhere else to turn. This is wrong.
Now we are going on to the last 15 minutes of our broadcast, and I want to hear. I want you all to our panelists to just take a minute to collect your thoughts. In fact, I'll even let you wave your hand to see who wants to take the first bite at it. But if you don't wave your hand soon, I'm just gonna call on you, put you on the screen. You hear what we're saying. You hear we're talking about the system is ineffective. The fix is in. They can have you chasing your tail for years. File this, the clerk lose it, the sheriff never served it. I mean, you could just literally the runaround, and every day, every year after year, and sometimes you're spending money. Okay, people hear that, and we're still, even after AUI has launched, get a lot of messages, will take my case. Not really even paying any attention to the message that we've got to, change these rules. We got to open up a place for you to go so that your case can be fairly considered. But people are still thinking, if somebody powerful like Stephen Harris would just take my case, if Charles Brown would just get on the microphone and mention my name, if Brother Bantushango would just, take up my cause, I can get justice. If we could just get major media coverage, if, and then you commit, nobody's paying you. You're lucky if they'll pay you a $15 a year membership fee. And then 2 or 3 years in the fight, and if you haven't solved all their problems, then you wasn't no good, no way. You either couldn't help me or you didn't want to help me. So what do you say to people to help understand that, yes, we've got to fight our cases? Because I don't believe that we should just, I don't believe in this just, well, we'll change the system for people to come behind. No, I want relief now. But I understand that in addition to fighting my own case, I've got to change the system in which that case is being fought. Brother Charles Brown, what do you say to people who just keep saying, I don't want to hear all that, just take my case?
Wow. that's on a daily basis. And as of right now, it's hard to say no, but
it's hard
I have got to the point to say that. I got to the point to say that, not being nasty or being rude, it's just the time and the effort, research and things like that. And I'm only one man. But at the same time, if I can see a misconduct, prosecution misconduct, oh yeah, I'm jumping on that ASAP.
Yeah, but we got to keep those layers in there because we gonna jump on them, and then some cases are great. You know, they really showcase the problem. So some cases really need to be lifted up. But we going into this diet, you know, we going into this system that's designed not to give us relief, with somebody who's telling us go in and win anyway. What do you say to somebody who has that position, Mr. Harris?
Well, basically, you know, I get a lot of these different dialogues from different people, you know, who really doesn't have the sense of direction. They don't have the skill set, and they don't have patience, most importantly, and they just want it right now. To those type of people, I just simply tell them that, just take a moment to just take a deep breath, and and explain everything to me. I mean, I literally have an account set up to where it's statewide, to where hundreds of people incarcerated, male and female, they call me every day with something. And what I do is, in the course of conducting an assessment, I determine, the greatest uh acts of evil versus the lesser acts. And I have to also assess and differentiate between emergency situations and circumstances versus non-emergency situations, because some cases that come to me, they're tainted with the wrongful conviction, and all the prosecutorial misconduct, and the whole shebang. But on top of that, their medical, their health is declining. So there are certain instances and certain situations and circumstances that will require immediate action versus someone.
Yes. Well, what about Brother Kobina? What about that word sustainability? And one thing, before I let you answer that, Brother Stephen, you talked about patience. I like to tell people we need the patience that it takes to win. I don't believe in this notion that, okay, we'll just like sit back and wait for 10, 20, 30 years or whatever. I don't preach that. But you got to have enough patience to do what's necessary to win. I've had people who've been fighting with no success for years. But when I tell them we need 90 days to pull together an effective campaign, in their complex situation, they like, oh, they don't have time for that. We don't have the patience at times to win, let alone I'm not interested in patience to lose. Brother Kobina, what do you say? How do you deal with sustainability? Because these things cost. Even if you're volunteering, you're absorbing overhead yourself, even if you're working it from your home basement. How do you make sustainability a word that can resonate among people who need our help?
Yeah, I think Malcolm said it best. Like, organization is key. We have to win people to organization, because it's not like, anybody gonna swoop in and solve all the problems. I think that, we have to deepen people's understanding, educate people in terms of, we're gonna have to organize. Our community's gonna have to get organized to fight these battles. Because even if you just talk about most people come to struggle or come into political life from pain because it happened to them, because it happened to their family member. So then they look for some assistance from that point. That's their introduction into political life. And so they come because they're hurting and they want some resolve or relief from their pain. And as organizers, we have a responsibility to deepen that, to help them understand that it's not just you, it's our whole community is suffering. It's like slaves on a plantation. All of us is suffering from this pain, and that's why organization is key. We have to build a type of organization similar to what Garvey was doing, and that's what we have to build. We have to win people to organization and being a part of this process while they fight. You maybe fight your individual case, but we have to deepen that and organize to fight. To overturn the contradictions that even created your case. And I think that's what we do as the African People's Social Party. That's what AUI is fighting to do. And we have to win people to be a part of these organizations to advance this fight. Because, the worst feeling that I ever had as an organizer is to look in the eyes of a mother who the police just murdered her child. And as an African man and revolutionary, to not be able to get her the justice that she needs right at that moment is painful to experience. You know what I'm saying? But we have to help, even in that situation, win them to organization to say that you're just in saying you want to kill this officer that murdered your child. We have to have the power to bring forth the justice that's necessary for us to, bring adequate justice to these situations. And if people, and that's what we have to win people to. We have to be able to deepen people's political understanding. We have to be able to organize people into organization, and that takes work, and that takes consistent work with getting people this information out there. Because the other thing that we have to understand is that this government, and they organize all the time. They constantly putting out information, whether it's through the radio, whether it's through the TV, whether it's through the billboard, where they constantly fighting for the minds of the people. And we have to win the minds of the people to say that it's our right to be in power of our lives and to be in power of our situation, and also to resist any injustice that they present to us. We have a right to fight that. We have a right to resist that. We have a right to want justice for ourselves and for our loved ones, and we ain't gonna accept nothing less. I don't give a damn what you're talking about. We ain't accepting nothing less. And that's what we have to win people to, that type of organization that is not Cow Tom and Uncle Tom into these political pundits. You know what I'm saying? We have to say that we're going to organize, and we organizing to get free, and we coming for what's ours, regardless of what the hell you do.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. We're going to go over a few minutes because I want all of our guests to share, not only in the chat but on camera, how people can get in touch with you in your state. But Ms. Belinda, I say to you, sometimes I almost like, when there's a big movement and there's a big buzz and uproar, getting a lot of major media attention, fighting injustice, sometimes I almost don't even like to see it, because it puts in people's mind that that's the template, that we're gonna get on a camera and have a press conference, and like the Law and Order Special Victims episode, by the end of the hour we'll have justice. What do you say about that? And what our
Dr.
other
Z,
guests have had to say?
Yeah, Dr. Z, first of all, I want to address what you said earlier, because it's something that people really need to understand. And I'm looking at the chat, when you said that, what about my case? Why don't somebody just take my case? And when we saying that, okay, we still can win some and we can lose some. There is no adequate redress. And what we have here is that the fact about the corrupt, organized abuse in the legal system, you know, it comes down to the responsibility of America's judiciary to ensure our country conduct a fair and impartial administration of justice. But when we have deliberate violations of our rights under the color of law, I don't care who take your case. We may win some, we may lose some. But if the fix is in, we're not going to get an adequate redress. So what we're saying that AUI is on the scene now. And everybody needs to treat that as the solution to making sure that we get a place to come and bring your case so that you can get justice. You know, we don't have time. I'm 62 years old. And we're looking at what's happening in America right now. You go to prison, you stay in there for 40 years, and then all of a sudden they find out, or some lawyer just pop up out of the blue and say, well, they never should have been there in the first place. 40 years, really? Is that what we're talking about? You know, I just had a case, and all I am is an advocate. And the young man committed suicide because his lawyer was in cahoots with the insurance company that should have paid him his money. Now, how long was he supposed to wait for that? Somebody say 2 days, 30 days. He killed himself. And what I'm saying, a crisis is a crisis. And we should not have to wait when we know that our government have already said they're supposed to be protecting us from this. So why do we have to pay a lawyer, file a motion, go in front of a judge that's going to deny whatever it is that we do on your case? So that's why LUI, you know, Dr. Z, is saying that we can't wait. It's cold blue. Time out. Time out, people. And when we keep on, if we don't really understand, and this is my message to the whole world need to know. When we're saying that we're experts and we have an AUI that's saying, look here, we're not going to take this no more. My grandmother said, what you tolerate is what you get. And we're saying we're not going to tolerate the fact that we don't have nowhere to turn when these type of atrocities are happening to us. We need a place to go. And that's why we said AUI have already put a, saying that the president, Biden, cannot stand idly by and be silent and blatantly disregard us when we have a right to say, we're in a crisis. We're in danger of losing all of our possession, of going to prison, of our kids being taken away from us. We're in danger, people. So my point is that we got to realize we can keep on running around taking people cases. Yes, like Dr. Z said, we do need the data. We need the information. We need to be able to, connect all the dots and all of these things that's happening in cases. Don't stop doing what you're doing in your organizations. This is not a competition with an organization of what you're doing to support your constituents or your members. But like LUI here in Louisiana is that we're fed up. We're not going to go to the Fox Garden or hen house. We're not going to keep on running around and chasing the rabbit. What we're saying, we need a place to go, and we need a place to go now. That's the reason why we have endorsed and supported and you know, Dr. Z, I appreciate you so much of how you rolled out this campaign with all the whistles and bells that go along with it. You know, how we're going to be able to, organize and mobilize the people to come on in and support it. You know, the ambassadors, you know, an ambassador is somebody that says, look at here, you know, I am the representative for this. You know, this is a key role that I would play in knowing that this is something that we need as a people to get the solution to this crisis that we're in. AUI is something that we need as a people because the power is with the people. We are the people that have the right to stand up and say, we will not tolerate our government beating up on us. That's what AUI is for us. It's for all of us. And we need it, and we need it now. So what is it that I have a question, Dr. Zena, and I would like for you to address it. Because see, you know, we got people right now that's listening to us. And all they're thinking about is me, myself, and I. What about my case? What you gonna do to help me? You know, I need relief. And we're telling you there is none. What do we do? How do we get people to really understand the power of this campaign, that it's a solid campaign? It's a force to be reckoned with. It's what we need now. How do we get that, Dr. Zena?
Miss Belinda, I'm telling you, I am so overwhelmed by your words and the presentations of our guests. It's hard for me to even add anything at this point because you all have said it all, honestly. And we just have to keep, like Brother Kobina said, keep bringing people to organizing, keep helping them understand that they're in a system that's geared to deny them relief. And you can't go in a system that is determined to give you nothing, and then you want to tell us to go get something, go win for me. Yes, we can present your case, but we've got to change that system. We've got to create an environment. You've got to create an environment in which you can win. And AUI, we've got the United States between a rock and a hard place, because we have documented that when it comes to alleging that the fix is in, there is no way to go. The international community is waiting on us to get our act together and stand tall and say, we demand that the United States comply with its International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We've got a historical finding from the UN Human Rights Council. The UN Human Rights Committee has been supportive. We got a letter from the the prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, and they say that they receive our information. They're going to look at the prospect of investigating President Biden for bystanding to this persistent abuse of our court system. The international community is willing to fight with us, but they're not going to fight for us. And you know, I'm not sure what else I can add. We have to understand. I'm not sure why, when you have people who are prepared to say that is LUI's fault, is Second Chance's fault, is we the people, you all did, you know, we're willing to look to each other and blame each other if there's not a quick win. But it seems like we're resisting saying that it's the United States fault that it takes all of this to prevail, And all of this is not due process, and they have pledged it through international treaty to protect us from rogue agents of government. I don't see anything any more fundamental than that. Some people will say that the most fundamental thing for a government to do is to make sure that our basic needs are met: food, shelter. I say give me liberty. Because if you're giving me, the government cheese, but I'm still going to be oppressed, I'm still going to be, with somebody's thumb, and I have no real control over my life, liberty, and property. The quality of life that presents is very questionable to me. So, at this point, I want each of our guests to share the name of your organization and how best that we can that people can get in contact with you, and any closing remarks that you want to leave us with. If you could take 1 minute to get that done, Mr. Stephen Harris.
Yeah, for anybody that's tuning in to this audience, hold on 1 second. I had an incoming. For anybody tuning into this audience, feel free to contact me at Second Chance Initiative 77@gmail.com or Second Chance Office 77@gmail.com, and the contact number is 601 710 7390. And my closing remarks is we have to keep the momentum going. I just want to say this real quick. In the course of me fighting in criminal justice, dealing with the Mississippi penal systems, they have been sued time and time again. I'm talking about thousands of lawsuits for over decades. And the result is always the same in regards to the relief. Like per se, the prison officials would change something temporarily, and then it would go back to the same systemic, crude and unusual issues. But I had a bone to pick with the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center, because they had took the initiative to launch a lot of litigation towards the Mississippi penal system. But the thing of it is that I addressed to them that what's the purpose of filing litigation because of the cruel and unusual punishment that thousands of prisoners have been subjected to, and not ask for their liberty. Because when people go before a judge to get convicted, there's no stipulation that say, well, it's okay for them to subject you to double punishment. It's okay for them to violate your 8th Amendment right. So with that being said, since they're state prisoners, but their federal rights is being violated in the course of them trying to pay a debt to society, or in the course of them trying to fight an unjust or wrongful conviction, why not ask for their freedom? And that's my closing remark.
You're talking about effective redress, and that's what AUI is all about. And Ms. Belinda, you getting them fired up. Here we are trying to end the program. Mr. Charles Brown, go ahead and tell us your contact information. Repeat tell us the name of your organization, and give us your closing remarks in a minute.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Again, my name is Charles Brown. I can be reached at Facebook, Instagram, upon the Charles A. Brown. Email address, charlesaverybrown@gmail.com. And the closing remarks is that AIU, I appreciate, thank you guys, even meeting you guys. I only been out on parole for 3 years. And Ms. Zena, you like a sister, and Miss Brown. So with that said and done, I want all comrades to continue to push forward, get all the information we can, and get the listeners to tune in a little bit more closer. And I'm like a little bit hands-on. I kind of learned that like 2 weeks ago. My present carry a lot, saves a lot, study over the phone or Zoom. So I kind of figured that out like within the last 2 days. So with that said and done, we moving full throttle. Miss Belinda in Georgia. We ain't gonna stop. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Brother Bantushango, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
I get used to talking a whole lot on mute. But
I've given some great speeches on mute myself.
right, and it don't come out the same the second time. But yeah, Kobina Bantushango, I'm with the African Socialist Party. You can reach me in the party, APSPUHURU.org, APSPUHU.org. And you can, I'm on Facebook, Kobina Bantushango, and you can also email me directly at kobinayuhuru@gmail.com. And I just, again, want to salute the work that Belinda Parker-Brown and my comrade and Dr. Zena are doing, and the LUI, AUI, you know, join, be a part of a process that's going to, you know, that's going to fight for our liberation, and is not going to a genuine fight, and it's not going to, you know, kowtow to these oppressors.
Miss Belinda, you want to close us out?
Yes, Dr. Zena, thank you so much. I put my contact information in the chat, and that's how you can contact me and Dr. Zena Crenshaw. She is the Chief of Operation of America's United International. She is I want to say the most powerful person when it comes to how we roll this out, that really understand what it's all about. She's the expert and the specialist in and being able to break this down and make it more crystal clear for everyone to understand why AUI is so important. But my closing remarks would be that we can go all around the world and back. And what we're saying is that we do not have adequate redress. There is nowhere for us to turn when we are suffering this type of tyranny and oppression. And what AUI is here to do is bring the people together. You know, everybody needs to be in agreement that there is nowhere else to turn when the fix is in. And whether or not, if you really don't understand that, we're going to have some training. We're going to, you know, we're asking everybody to contact us for any additional information, any concerns or questions that you may have about this campaign. But everybody needs to be in agreement that the United States of America judicial system does not give us adequate redress, and we don't have nowhere else to turn. Okay, now I want to make this very clear, is that when you don't have anywhere else to turn, what do? You need to be able to start, you know, contacting us, you know, opting into USA, you know, making sure without a doubt that we get that. We get a place where we can go. And that's the reason why we're calling it a FEMA. When there is an emergency, a federal emergency management agency that gives us a place where our cases can be heard, then you need to unmute yourself, because it's time for your voice to be heard, and in a place where you know that you can go and be heard to get the relief that you need. So on that note, we need AUI that is calling for that place for all of us to have somewhere to turn. We need it now. This is a crisis. Thank you, Dr. Z.
Let me get everybody on the screen and just wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for this last AUI interview before the holiday season. Uhuru, we're gonna, what is that? Full throttle.
Freedom.
We're gonna make this happen, and we're gonna work together and understand that we have to fight this thing on all fronts. So with that, Good night, everybody. And we'll
Good
see you
night.
again
Thank
real
you,
soon.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.